Welcome to Backstory and Beyond with your host, Ward Kampf, seeker, innovator, and president of Northwood Retail. As Ward travels the country, he'll share the industry insights he's gained over a 3 decades-long retail career, introduce you to trailblazing business leaders and disruptive founders, and uncover the real deal about some of the greatest cities in the world. This week, Ward is in New York with retail expert and Wall Street dynamo Dana Telsey, founder of Telsey Advisory Group, a leading research, trading, and banking firm focused on the consumer sector. They'll talk through the latest retail trends, the value of an on-the-ground perspective, grabbing market share, and how to create a perfect team with Dana's pizza test.
So we're in New York City, one of my favorite cities in the country, with probably one of the most knowledgeable retail gurus in the country, Dana Telsey. Dana, thank you for your time. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's dive into it. You're a New Yorker through and through, born in New York. I think that your grandmother worked at Bergdorf. Mm-hmm. You went to school at Hobart, went on to Fordham, and all of a sudden, it's time to get a job. Mm-hmm. And you live in the same apartment building with Ron Barron, maybe one of the greatest investors of our lifetime. Walk me through, through the rest.
So, yes, I grew up in the city. My family and I lived in the same building as Ron Barron. He had a Cocker Spaniel, and we knew him as the Cocker Spaniel man. We had a Shih Tzu, so my sister and I walked our dog with him. And all of a sudden, he says he's going to start his own company. And I was in college. And I said, well, what do you do? He said, would you want to work there during the summer? I said, I don't know what you do. He goes, oh, I'm in the stock market. I'm an investor. So I wound up working there summers in college and 7 years after. And I'm a true believer in mentors, and I couldn't have had a better mentor. He allowed me to blend my love of retail with financial and being able to blend the quantitative and qualitative. So Ron taught me how to analyze financial statements, how to know what makes a retailer tick in terms of what growth rates could be and how they could look. And then the other thing that you blend that with is the feet on the street. It's really nice to have online and the convenience, but there's nothing that takes away the relationship of being able to see a product, an item on the shelf in a store and see how other people engage with it. So I was at Ron's for 7 years because sometimes you can't live where you grew up. And then I went to the sell side or the brokerage side, and I went to a company called CJ Lawrence, and they gave me a shot at being the retail analyst. And in my world, there's something called Institutional Investor, this magazine that ranks analysts. So I went to everyone and I said, how do you become this ranked analyst? And they said, you won't be able to because other people have been there a long time. I don't believe in the word no. I believe in let's go under, over, whatever it happens. So I became a ranked analyst within 11 months, which was the fastest ever. And you call more, you write more, you visit more. And bottom line, it's about learning. It's about telling stories where you can learn from people and they can learn from you. And being able to share that insight is what allowed people to want to see me often and me want to see them, both from the retailers and the institutional investors. So I was there for 3 years. It got taken over by Deutsche Bank and all the other banks came calling. And I went to Bear Stearns. I didn't like it at Bear Stearns. I loved it at Bear Stearns. It allowed me to basically create my own destiny. Built a team. We were the #1 institutional investor ranked team. I was there for 12 years. And when I left in 2006, before Bear went away in 2008, to be the best at what you do, basically you have to have a great team. And I was really fortunate. I had great teams at Bear. I have great teams at my company now. But Bear, you couldn't promote from within. So in essence, I started my own firm, had a bunch of people from Bear Stearns join me, and now it's 17 years later at Telsey Advisory Group, and everything ebbs and flows from the consumer. We follow every different area, public companies, private companies, from department stores, apparel, luxury, grocery, consumer electronics, and overarching all of it is new economy. Because as I said at the beginning, how you convert is what matters. We have then our banking and consulting arm where we've been involved with many of the newest companies out there that go public. Real estate companies, our biggest constituency, but it's steel companies, it's media companies, because they all want to know a brand has to say what it does and do what it says. And so we can share with them how you build a profile and how you convert. And then we have an asset management arm where we have a hedge fund, a long-biased hedge fund that's been around for 7 years. But what I'm most proud of is when you think of the 35 people in our company that's been around for 17 years now, in excess of 15 have been with me for 10 years plus. 3 of them I've worked with for over 20 years. So it's always about teamwork makes the dream work. And yes, we've been around for 17 years. I can't wait till the next 87 years. My grandmother worked until she was 88 years old. And it's always about conversion. And it's always about the rule of Sundays. Ward, do you know my rule of Sundays?
I've just heard about it.
So the rule of Sundays is Sunday night comes. If you're not jazzed and excited from Monday through Friday, you're not going to be great at what you do. You're with the people more Monday through Friday than you're with who you were with Saturday and Sunday. So you better be excited and happy from Monday through Friday because it makes it exciting for you. It makes it exciting for the people that you work with. And it makes you look forward to each week after the next.
It's such a divergence because most of the conversations I have, I always ask them the question, you get the Sunday scaries, because you just never know.
Right.
And you flipped it around and said, my rule of Sunday is shape your Sunday up and be ready to go to work. Let's have fun and work hard. So I'll walk back a little bit. You said something, we had lunch about 3 years ago, and that was really, really caught my eye about the Bear Stearns when you went there. You said you went there to grab more market share than any human being on Wall Street. And it had never been done. And that was your number one goal, was to go in. And, my sister worked for Kidder Peabody, back in the late 80s. And it was very hard for a woman at that time, buy-side research, whatever. But I thought that was one of the most fascinating things you said. You said, I'm going to own the largest amount of market share on the street.
So when I went to Bear Stearns, and keep in mind, I didn't have a following. Yes, I had just made II, but no one's going to do things for you. You have to do things for yourself and prove yourself every day, not just to others, but to yourself. And basically I said, I'm here for one reason. I'm here to gain market share. Because what does that encompass? It encompasses sales dollars. It encompasses awareness. And my whole goal is being essential. So I believe that you can stay and do what you like if you keep reinventing yourself. And reinventing yourself allows you to continue to grab market share. And to this day, I'm continuing to reinvent myself as the world turns.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to be in 3 years, but I know I want to be at the front of it, not at the back of it.
I totally agree. Female founder businesses are a little different. And there is some resistance. There was a period of time where you just weren't that dominant. Did you find that, or were you just
What I've always tried to do is I lead by my work. Some of the biggest money managers out there, when I first was on the sell side and went marketing, I could tell they were trying to test me. My memory is almost photographic, not all photographic. And they would say, okay, Dana, so what was the operating margin of this company in 1990, whatever? And then I'd come back to them. And if I didn't know it, always tell people when you don't know something. Never, ever BS or make something up.
Right.
Say, I don't know. But you know what got them every time? You'd call them within 15 minutes and say, oh, just by the way, here's this. I'll never forget one time I was in Singapore. And I always do client calls every day. The way I arrange it is with my sales force. I have times that I make calls with all of them, and have times I make calls all by myself. And so I got a call from someone in Boston, and they said, oh, Dana's out of town. Within 10 minutes, I called. I said, I thought you were out of town. I said, I am. I'm in Singapore, but tell me, you're important to me. Let's talk. And so it doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter what time it is. It matters that every client, even if they're not a client, knows they're important. Because always what that does, it allows you to own them early and own them big. Because that's how you gain market share.
I totally agree. So somebody sent me a book. It's called The Founder's Mentality. And there's 3 pillars to it. You're the insurgent. You're running a business. So it sounds like, you run the business every day. And then the last one is the obsession with the front line. And I can tell there's no greater human being that's more obsessed with the front line. Square kind of that founder's mentality of insurgent. You're running the business. You're talking to your CEO, CFO.
Yep.
And then you're always on the front line wanting to know every quantitative, qualitative aspect.
So you bucket your time.
Yep.
The only limitation you have is your time.
Yep.
So you got to bucket your time, and where you're spending your time and whatever you're doing at that time, that's got to be the most important to you. Right. That's what you're focused on. Because people can tell very quickly if you're just passing them off.
Right.
So it's always important to me that whatever I'm doing at that time, I'm all in. I study intently in order to be educated, But as I said at the beginning, teamwork makes the dream work. I couldn't do it without my great team of Joe Feldman and Tom Chin, Joe on the research team, Tom, who runs banking consulting. We know our other puts and takes and our strengths and weaknesses, and together we're stronger than apart. And it's not just me, it's the team that makes us be able to move forward. When we interview people, and typically everyone else interviews them before they get to me because I want to make sure they're liked by the people at the firm. Would they fit in? Would they want to work with them? And then if people like them and they agree they should be hired and they'd be additive to the team, then I'll meet them. I want to like them too. So you ask about them, what their goals are, what they are looking for in the role. And then at the end of it, I'd always think, okay, you passed the pizza test. And they'd look at me and say, what's the pizza test? I said, oh, that we'd all like to have pizza together. As long as you want to have pizza with that person, then they're going to be a great member of the team. You want to win together. You want to be able to learn together. And so it's all about the pizza test.
I think that's an incredible rule to live by. I had never really heard that.
Do you have a pizza test?
I don't. I have a pretty good intuition. I look for things. A young lady that's worked for me for almost 15 years, something was on her resume about she was a sideline reporter for ESPN in college. And that there's things like that I look for, in people. I think one of the things I look for is travel, competitiveness. Were they athletes? Because I think if you competed, we've got a young lady that's an Olympic gold medalist that works for us. I don't know another one.
Yep. No.
So I think when we're looking, there's unique traits that people have done. Have they gotten their hands dirty? Is one. Worked hard. So it's not all about grades, and I think it's about intuition and hard work.
It's funny you say that. We've hired a bunch of marathon runners. I love marathon runners because the stick-to-itiveness and they can go the distance.
Yeah. I think competing at a high level at a young age, I think it helps you learn how to deal in teams and be competitive.
Right.
And we kind of look at that, and that and travel, education, obviously, but I like the pizza test.
Yeah.
Talk about, one of the things, as you start a business and you're a founder, you've got to be able to scale it.
Yep.
When you leave bare, you start with a lot less resources. And then as you build the business and you gain the market share, you get more resources, and then you can start to scale.
So you are exactly right. It's interesting because in hiring people, some people don't want to go to where you have to get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves at a smaller firm. So what happened when we started TAG is, yes, I had a base of customers who all know me, but then do they want to know me at TAG or do they want to know me at Bear Stearns? And so the fact that we've been around now for 17 years, we can prove that we can be essential to them as TAG, not just Bear Stearns. Because what it comes from is it comes from the insights and the service. You have insights, you have service, and you show that you are essential to their process. Even when we interview research people, I say, is your work camera ready? Mistakes matter. And if you make a mistake, other people are going to catch it, and then you're not credible. And so we have 3 people read reports before it gets to me and gets published in order that it's camera ready. Our sales force is best in class because they are consumer experts with consumer insights, so they can talk the talk. My traders are all about, well, let's talk about the customer and let's talk about what we're seeing. So it all emanates up from the consumer, and the service mentality, it is first to how we can help you. So we not only keep our customers, but we grow our customer base.
Well, I think, I've done several interviews with women. There's kind of an unwritten rule where very successful women, they see talent, they give opportunity, and they know they want to bring someone under, especially if they're talented. They usually see themselves in someone younger. Yeah. It doesn't always pan out that way.
Doesn't always pan out that way. And if it doesn't pan out, I'm a huge believer in fire fast,
right.
Hire slow, fire fast,
right.
Because it's not going to get better.
Right.
And so I'm really fortunate that some of the interns I've had, we keep in touch with. I had one intern sent me flowers earlier this year saying, Dana, it was 20 years ago that I was your intern. You may not remember me, but I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity. And now she's a huge fund manager in Dubai. But those types of things, that's why you wake up every morning, right. And that's why you do it. You're giving people opportunity that comes from the opportunities that were given to you.
Right. Well, I believe that too. I think giving people, mentoring people is really important. We don't have enough people that want to take the time or put the investment behind it and teach them correctly.
Exactly. And if if they're willing to learn, then you just want to spend more and more time with them. It's very energizing.
So just doing a little bit of numbers and IPO wise, you said you've done IPOs, equity offerings, de-SPACs, all this. But I think your IPO numbers are somewhere in the 97 to 100 range, roughly $66 billion of IPOs. Your debt offerings are in the 120 range, but it's like $301 billion. That's, you're starting to talk 120, 130 less of half of $1 trillion. That's a lot. Are there two or three either IPOs or you recapitalized where you either changed people's lives? You obviously do that when you take someone public, but was there something special around?
So one of them that was special, and it literally was the year that we started TAG, Lululemon.
Yeah.
That was special. You saw it from the beginning. You saw what their product was doing. And you know what? You saw the customer reaction to the product. Is, wow, there's something different here. And that was way before there was hybrid work, way before there was the pandemic. And that was a wow in terms of what it delivered. You know which other one was very interesting? Levi's. Levi's is different than your dad's Levi's, your grandfather's Levi's from years past. And getting to know the company and what they stand for and what they message every day with the newness, that was pretty exciting also.
I do think, when you're talking about that type of success, do you ever step back and say, wow, we've built this company, a niche boutique in a world where information's everywhere?
Yes, we talk about it, but we're always looking forward.
I think when you play really fast, I do think the game at some point, once you get to scale, slows down a little bit, because you're just in a routine. You're just going, you're doing what you're doing over and over. But I think it does kind of come to you more natural. And I think the toughest thing, once you win, you want to go have another win. When you lose, you're in a very uncomfortable or something goes wrong.
Right.
Because it's rare, right? I mean, you rarely get in those situations. And
it's about examination. Let's examine what we did. What do we want to do better? We want to change. I'm fortunate I have a team. They are very focused on being able to stay of the moment and to continue to be essential by looking at the past. What do we need to get rid of? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? And it comes whether it's through our research product, whether it's through how we're interacting with clients. I mean, look at today. We have a client base on the research side where they may not meet with the companies in person. They'll say, let's do this one Zoom. So we got to adapt. Let's have the CEO and CFO. Let's do a Zoom meeting. And so the flexibility in examining helps us be relevant in the future.
You've been quoted in the Wall Street. You were on CNBC, and everybody is talking about the suburbs and how hot suburban America has become for retail. Since it's top of mind, everybody's talking about it. You're kind of one of the centerpieces of the article. Thoughts of how real this is and where we think this goes.
As hybrid work is basically now it's foundational. It's not going to change. I mean, you look at Manhattan here, and it's busier sometimes in restaurants and in different areas than it is in some of the offices. So the fact that it is changing like that, I think suburban retail needs and is becoming re-energized. And whether it's these stores that are coming there, whether it's the lifestyle and entertainment aspects that's coming there, people are going there for lunch and then doing other things during their workday. So I think it continues to be more important. Mixed use becomes more important. And I think whatever we're seeing today, it's going to evolve even 5 years from now.
I agree.
But the level of investment that's being poured into it is significant, and it's significant to attract customers and shoppers who come there on a daily basis.
I think retail's gone through multiple evolutions, and you've seen it, and thoughts of trends and the way the consumer shops today, whether there was a big article on luxury watches. I was surprised at how many of them were bought online. It was about physical, but it also talked about digital. And just talk a little bit about, because you've had to evolve, right?
Yeah.
To understand if somebody's really, they may put up big numbers, but you got to understand, are they making money? And
right. When you look at digital and physical, so a couple things that have changed. What the pandemic did for us is it took away the constant rhetoric that you and I were all being asked all the time, is Amazon going to take over consumer shopping? There are too many stores they need to close. Well, guess what? Amazon didn't take over the world. You can see that now by what's happening with the physical footprint. And guess what? Retailers did close stores. And you know what they are today? They're net store openers. We're seeing retailers be net store openers because they got rid of the dead wood and they have a new foundation of what their stores look like because the stores are fulfilling multiple functions with the structure of online, omni-channel emphasis along with being in the store and, let us engage you with a sales associate in order to sell you. If you bought the belt, well, then you're going to buy the shoes when you pick something up. And then lastly, we had over 96 retailers going bankrupt in 2020 and 2021. The dead wood's away. And when you think about the bankruptcies so far in 2023, whether it's Bed Bath, whether it's Party City, every Bed Bath location, there's multiple retailers who would take any one of those locations, and there's an arm wrestling for those stores that are going on. So yes, you need to evolve, and I believe the suburbs is happening, but even some of the top enclosed malls maintain their relevancy because of who's shopping them every day.
I would agree. Yeah, and I think the core urban city, you can't write them all off. It'll be interesting to see, what happens or how it evolves. There is a thought that it wasn't just the pandemic that cloud computing, because you used to have to go in the office, use the server, everything was connected. And, we think that may be part of the office, issue that nobody really wants to, like Teams, Skype, all this stuff was there, Zoom, but the cloud, now we're on to AI, but we kind of need to walk backward and say the cloud's part of the issue as well.
Yes, it is.
But it's also part of the issue of why retailers have been able to grow and scale e-commerce. So
right.
There's
the other thing that retailers are doing a lot of. Look how many retailers are talking about their loyalty programs.
Yeah.
Everyone's invented a loyalty program, and they all know from the data how much more important the customer is to them and what they need to do to personalize the offering. When I think of retail and I think of brands, there's always three elements that lead to success. The drivers of them are constantly changing as time changes. So to me, it's always about concept, execution, and management. And a successful concept today is driven by innovation. If you don't innovate, you're not going to keep the attention of your existing customers and won't garner new ones. What execution is to me is seamless and speed. You better be there when the customer wants you because it's not up to you, it's up to them. And management now is informed by data. So when you talk to companies, how are you innovating? What are you utilizing to enhance your speed and being seamless? And tell me what you're learning from the data. If a company can't answer those questions, then they don't have the path to the future. And that's what I always look towards.
And I would say over 20 or 30 years or 30-something years, you've seen them come and go. You can tell real quick.
Yeah.
The management teams. When you're talking about your three pillars, I can define my business real clearly: vision, strategy, and execution. It's all about what's the vision of the property, what's the strategy, how do we get it there, execution, what do we need as far as people, development, redevelopment. Like, it's about vision, strategy, and how do we execute.
Right.
A question for you: who are the top three CEOs that you've seen over the last 20, 30 years?
I mean, there's CEOs who are merchants who are spectacular.
Right.
I mean, there's a man named Michael Gould, who I'd also credit as a mentor, who was formerly the CEO of Bloomingdale's.
Yeah, sure.
The way that he can engage his team is tremendous and have them be part of the conversation. It's something that's very special. I would say there's other tremendous CEOs and leaders out there. Carol Meyerowitz, who is running TJ Maxx and has passed the baton to Ernie, what she's done in making off-price relevant to all and the execution of the business model is super impressive. And then I think there are leaders for today. Sharon McCallum, who is at Albertsons as their president, was at Best Buy. The execution that she puts into a business model in order to be able to drive sales, she knows how to adapt to change, which is very exciting and something that should be looked at carefully.
All right, so let's go to the personal side of Dana. You're here in New York. What do you do for fun? I mean, because you work. I mean, you're one of the hardest working people. How do you decompress?
Okay, a couple things. Let's take away the word work because this doesn't work for me.
Right,
this is my life.
Yeah.
But I love to walk. I love to walk and see the sky.
Right.
I just did a London, Paris, Milan, Rome trip a couple weeks ago to see all the retailers. I got 40,000 steps on one of the days.
Right.
It was amazing. So when you walk, you see things, and there's a clarity to walking that allows you to come up with new themes and new thoughts. And that's why, even though I was a huge BlackBerry person back in the day, now with my phone, I just push the microphone and talk into it and give my thoughts that way.
Right.
So I think walking, and to me seeing stores, is super exciting. And I think going to other places to see it, like you and I have a love for the West Coast, Los Angeles, is fun. It opens your eyes, and the questions and the insights you can glean by seeing that makes it broader and helps you to ask more relevant questions to companies.
Or you go across the country and there's one-of-one stores. You've heard about it. You hear the next big deal. You've got to see it in person.
If you don't see it in person and talk to one of the sales associates, remember, I come from a family of salespeople, and I love talking to salespeople at the end of the day. And you know why? What would they rather do in a clothing store? Do they want to fold or talk?
Right.
And they're already done for the day, and like, so what happened today? How'd it go? What happened? And you learn things every day, and it becomes part of your knowledge base. It's your toolkit.
So let's talk about favorite restaurants in the city, West Coast, East Coast.
So I'm very routine. Whether I'm here in LA, whether I'm in New York, where I am now, or in LA, it's the same thing. I'm going to walk, go to restaurants, and go to stores. So when I'm in New York, and you were at my restaurant yesterday, it's not my restaurant, but I think of it as my restaurant. I'm very good friends with the owner of Mark's off Madison, Mark Strausman. And you know what makes his restaurant special to me? And then I'd like to hear what you think. The consistency and the friendliness of the service makes me go back every day because the food is great and the consistency of it, but it's the people. And Mark was the chef at Fred's at Barney's for many years. He started his own restaurant here. I was his first customer. I'm his everyday customer. And I look forward to going there all the time. Can't wait to go there when I come home. Can't wait to go there after work. And it's a special place with terrific food and a social ambiance. What did you think of it?
I thought it was great. But I'm like you. I'm a creature of habit. I don't like to really go off the beaten path. I like consistency. It doesn't need to be elegant. It just needs to be straight down the middle.
And
what
comfortable.
I like. Yeah, comfortable.
And so basically having walks, like walking up Fifth Avenue, down Madison Avenue, going to Soho, going to Meatpacking. I have different neighborhoods, Upper East Side, that I could visit each time. And every single time you go, you see something different. And I would say one of the things that made me see things differently was the pandemic. When I couldn't travel, all of a sudden you appreciate things more.
Right.
That's one of the changes.
This city's alive. I mean, being downtown yesterday, there's people, there's tourists you can see coming. There's a different feel finally, back in the city. So what would you say is the hidden gem of New York City?
It's the people. It's the people all moving at different paces, and you're all learning something and seeing something new. There's nothing the same, and you could find something different every day that you didn't know about. Even me, living here my whole life, every day I'll find something new. One of my favorite things to do here is find the cut-throughs. Cut through from one street to the next, going through hotels, going through whatever. It's cool, and I find new cut-throughs every day.
I mean, it is the people. You never see the same thing twice. You see every nationality, every ethnicity, and it's a wow moment when you come up here, and there's a lot of energy. What would you say the one thing when people come to New York City they have to see?
So it always takes my breath away, and it still does today. I love looking at the Empire State Building. Whatever street you're on, just looking at the Empire State Building.
Agree.
What color are the colors tonight? I mean, like I just took a picture of the green that the Empire State Building was last night. It's the coolest thing. To me, it says, yep, you're in Manhattan. And even when I go away, I can't wait to come home and walk on Fifth Avenue and see the Empire State Building. It just takes your breath away.
I totally agree that, there's been things, but the Empire State Building, there's something New York about it, but also represents something greater, I think. Don't you?
Yeah. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Isn't that what Frank Sinatra said?
Yeah. So just kind of in wrapping up, I want to thank you for your time today. Where do we find you?
You can find me at dtelsey at telseygroup.com. You can find me at LinkedIn, or you can call me a tag.
I appreciate you coming in and visiting with us and kind of tell us the backstory of Dana Telsey. And hopefully, somebody will listen and it will change the outcome of what they decide to do. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Ward. I love our conversations. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was terrific.
This has been Backstory and Beyond, hosted by Ward Kampf. To learn more about Northwood Retail or the destinations from today's episode, visit backstorybeyond.com.